Hi, this is the National Master Alessandro Santagati, and it's the video number 7 about the Goring series. Again, we focus attention about the variation d5. So, again, e takes d5, queen takes d5, c takes d4, bishop g4, and bishop e2. In the last lesson, we focused attention about bishop before check, knight c3, and now bishop takes f3. Now we see what happened if knight f6. That can be another interesting option for black. Against knight f6 we can simply play castle. Now the knight is attacking the queen, so the black has to choose where to go with the queen or if trade here on c3. Okay, we can imagine if queen h5, I think it's easy. h3 is strong because the bishop has no squares, or in theory, yes, the bishop can have squares, but if the bishop go back, you can imagine e6, we can simply play knight g5. Now the queen is in a very bad position, because if queen g5, queen g6, I can play d5, and I can open the position with the enemy king on the center. And if for example bishop d7, I can play again knight g5, queen g6, bishop d3, the queen is under attack. So the position is not good because I can attack immediately the king, and the white becomes very, very strong. I believe that in this position, queen h5 is wrong. h3, after h3, the white is very, very good. Okay, so if it's wrong, probably the black don't play this move, and we can imagine what happened if queen a5. Again, how we saw in the last videos, it's not a good idea to defend the knight. We can simply play h3, and if bishop back, we can develop the pieces with bishop e3. Because if the black will take on c3, have the nice move d5, the knight has to go, for example, on e7, and now after queen a4, the white is very, very, very strong because the black has to move the king, and bishop d4, the queen is under attack, the knight is under attack, I can attack with the rook e1, so we can understand that this position becomes very, very bad for black. Also because the queen is trapped, so no squares for the queen now. All the squares are covered by the white, so queen takes a3 is very bad. d5 and the white is better. But yes, probably the black can take here before, but I take with bishop, and if knight d5, again I have queen a4, and if king f8, I can play bishop e2, and the queen is in a bad position because I can try to trap the queen. At the same time, I can try to take the pawn c7 with a very good position, because for the pawn I have the bishop pair. The black queen is in a very bad position, the king is in a very bad position, so we can understand that in this position the white compensation for the pawn is very, very, very strong. Okay, so we can go back. So we know that in this position, after knight f6, after knight c3, move the queen is not a good idea, and for this reason it's better take on c3. White is to take, the black can castle on the king side. Now is important h3. This move can be useful if give a square for the king, and is for the trade or for the black to take a diagonal. So for example, can go to h5. And now is important, pay attention, because the black idea will be this. And if the enemy knight can go to c4, the black is good. For this reason, it's important to play immediately c4 to avoid this option. The queen can go back, and now we can develop the pieces with bishop e3, for example. And the white position now is good. The idea would be take the file, take the other file, make pressure. But it's very, very important for white play c4 immediately, because if you play, for example, bishop to e3, knight f5 is not. Oh, no, not immediately, sorry. Not immediately, probably because if knight f5 immediately, white can stop this idea with the queen a4, but we can imagine that I play rook f8, and if you don't play for time, or if you play, for example, queen d2, now knight a5 can be a nice idea. So the problem is pay attention about this option, because knight a5 c4 can be good for black. Okay, we know it, so we can play immediately c4 without problem, queen d6, bishop e3, and after this move, the black can play rook e8, for example, rook e1, or rook b1, b6. And another nice idea would be make pressure on the queen side, because both the bishops can help in this side. So, in this side. So another nice idea could be c5, because if the black will take, I take, can trade the queens, I take, and now it's good for white because I have this file open, and I can try to make pressure against c7 in the future, and it's a good endgame for white, I think. Okay, so it's important to know that about this variation with the knight f6 and the castle on the king side, with the knight f6 and the castle on the king side, an important key move for white is h3 followed by c4, and if the black play queen a5, that can be playable, we can simply ignore the attack against c3 and develop the pieces with bishop e3. Okay, now we know take the knight in this variation is wrong for black. We can imagine what happened if castle. If castle, we can have is the idea to try to throw the queen, so an idea could be knight b5. The knight can't work because there is this option with knight e5, and the knight can take here, bishop can go to d2, and again this idea doesn't work. But we can play another option. For example, we can play g4, and if bishop g6, now knight b5. There is an important difference, because in the last video in which we saw this idea, this move can work because when the black is castled on the king side, a6 doesn't work because there is a3, and if the black take it, I can take b4 and they can open the file against the king. Now the king is castled on the king side, so knight b5 doesn't work because the black can can play simply a6, and a3 doesn't work because if I take, the white can take, and I can simply take on b4 because now there isn't the attack against the king. So now knight b5 doesn't work if there is the castle on the king side, and probably we can play with the knight a4 because knight a4 is better, and the simple idea is take the square c5 with the knight, and at the same time play a3 b4. So for example, if rook d8 to the next example, I can play a3 and I can play b4. To take space on the queen side, because both the bishops are in this side. But probably to play in this way, I don't need g4. So when I said before g4 is not a good idea, now I can simply play knight a4 immediately with the idea a3 b4. So the correct move now is knight a4 without g4, because g4 can be good for knight b5, but now that knight b5 doesn't work, so knight a4 is better. And when, for example, rook d8, now a3 followed by b4, and now the white can take a good position. Okay, for this variation is enough, and if you enjoyed this video, share it with your friends. Thank you for the attention, and see you for the next video. Bye. Remember to follow me on social networks. and share the video with your friends. Thanks!